begin with some breaking inputs that are coming in. We are now learning that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just landed in Washington, D.C. As we all know today, just a while ago, he emplaned from New York City for Washington, D.C. And the latest that we are bringing to you is the information that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has landed in Washington, D.C. Let me inform you that this visit of the Indian Prime Minister to Washington, D.C. is particularly significant and marks a new height as far as India and US ties are concerned. A lot rests upon Prime Minister Modi's visit to Washington, D.C. because remember, there will be a host of events that he will be also attending. But most importantly, there will be a host of bilateral meets that will be taking place in the White House. And not to forget the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be addressing the US Congress. At the heart of his agenda lies a breakthrough as far as technology, critical emerging technology and bolstering defense ties are concerned. Let's try and get in a sense of perspective in terms of how Prime Minister Narendra Modi is aiming to do that. And for that, let me bring in my guest today. I'm joined in by Tekender Parmar, who is the Tech Features editor of Insider. Many thanks to you, Tekender, for very patiently awaiting your turn because, first of all, I know that there's been a lot of back and forth with regards to Prime Minister's landing. But now that we know that Prime Minister Modi is in Washington, D.C., tell us what can we expect as far as critical emerging technology is concerned? Because remember, there was a very significant meet as far as ISET is concerned. Delegations from India and the United States met just some days ago. Will Prime Minister Modi's visit be able to take that meet forward in terms of critical emerging technology?
Right. I think this is a very pivotal moment in Indian and U.S. relations, especially when it comes to technology. And we see that on two fronts. The first front is defense technology and the agreements that are being made about the production of jet engines in India. The second one has to do with consumer technology and semiconductors and Silicon Valley looking towards India as a new manufacturing powerhouse. Both of those things are fundamental shifts in how both the U.S. business industries and the U.S. military industrial complex has seen India, and it's a huge coup for the Modi government.
Right. And when we talk about Prime Minister Modi giving that boost, we also know that, the regulatory framework in terms of critical emerging technology being offered by the US was very tight. But a lot has started changing as far as that regulatory framework is concerned from the time US had Barack Obama as its president. And of course, we do see President Biden also taking that framework forward and perhaps loosening it a bit. Where are the hurdles?
Right. I mean, I think that's a very interesting point you raise, and we should dwell on that a little bit. Fundamentally, what we have seen is a shift in the U.S.'s approach to India when it comes to the military. Traditionally, the Indian government has sourced its jet engines and military technology from Russia, and that's because Russia allowed a transfer of technology that allowed manufacturing in India. The U.S. traditionally did not do that. Now we are seeing that shift, but those shifts, it rides on Modi's visit right now. That technology hasn't started being developed in India, but I know that people at Hindustan Aeronautics are keenly awaiting the outcome of this State Department visit.
Right. Tekender, the US NSA and the Indian NSA have been in touch. I want to know from you how much has already been designed during that very significant ISET meet that took place in terms of that critical emerging technology. And we are now hoping that Prime Minister Modi's visit will only bolster further in terms of whatever was concluded from that meet. If you could throw more light and explain what were those crucial points that emerged out of that ISET meet.
Right. I mean, I think that this meeting is definitely an evolution of previous attempts by the Indian government to the Indian and the U.S. government to bolster their relations. And what you are seeing now is a continuation of that development. You are seeing sort of further promises. You are seeing further agreements that will only strengthen U.S. and India ties.
This was the meet that we are talking about, whether it was between Ajit Doval or even if we talk about Jake Sullivan. But let's also talk about the defense aspect of it, something that you duly highlighted. The defense secretary from the United States, Lloyd Austin, was very much in India. He had a meet with India's Raksha Mantri, Rajnath Singh. It's expected that Prime Minister Modi will, in fact, be only shaping up the outcome of that meet. And when we talk about the outcome of that meet, where have been the hurdles as far as strategic defense cooperation between India and the United States are concerned?
Right. I mean, India has always maintained a certain independence when it comes to towing the American line. And I think what you are seeing right now is a interesting shift in that, right? The fact that the United States is agreeing to share this technology means that it's trying to meet India where it's at. In the background of all of this is China, right? This is China is a perceived threat to both U.S. dominance and also to India in its own backyard. But the question remains, at least in my point of view, what does this mean for the Indian government and its relative independence when it comes to the global stage in terms of what it when it sort of falls in line lockstep with American foreign policy and when it chooses to be independent?
Tikendra, how do you view this visit in terms of whatever has been Joe Biden's geopolitical agenda vis-a-vis India's changing pivot in terms of defense dependability? So far, as you also mentioned, it was Russia, and now we see this tilt towards the United States. Many experts, especially foreign policy analysts, are posing the question, will Washington be able to find that dependable ally in New Delhi?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's clear that is where things are heading, and that's a huge shift for American policy. It was traditionally China that America put its eggs in China's basket, it was traditionally Pakistan that in the subcontinent that America saw it as its key ally, but you see that shifting. And this visit, I think, is the fundamental solidification of that shift.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned China, because when we talk about India and the United States, we know that both the countries are on the same page when it comes to China. But when it comes to Russia, that's actually the crucial bone of contention, which is where the differences lie. Will New Delhi be able to assure the United States of being that trustworthy ally that perhaps the United States is looking for, or will New Delhi keep its options open? That's also another significant question that's coming to mind as I speak to you.
Right. I mean, to be honest, I don't think that at present New Delhi can, right? If you're thinking about military technology, a contract for, the development of jet engines doesn't preclude the fact that India has traditionally relied and is still reliant on Russian technology when it comes to its defense.
Right.
That's not going to change overnight, but that's one of the key factors when it comes to India deciding how it stays neutral with the Ukraine conflict. If that changes, and we are seeing that change happening as we speak, you can say that probably within we are seeing a shift in that direction. It hasn't happened yet, but we are seeing a shift in that direction.
Right. And let's talk